Hi, my name is Sliccmic. My real name is Michaela, but yeah. Yeah, I'm an artist. I'm based in New York, originally from Connecticut.
And how did your start in music begin? What is I guess your music background? Like, who are your influences? Like, what is your artistry?
So yeah, I got started in music around like 2017. And my background is kind of like I used to do theater when I was a kid, and just like I used to love to perform, to be on stage and everything. And then once I got older and I started having all these emotions and journaling, I was like, I need to put this somewhere. And my friend was like, why don't you make music? And I was like, whoa, wait, how do I do that?
And like, what genre would you define your music? Like, is it of course like a genre blend of like pop? Like, I listened to your music before. Also, I love I think '90s Madonna. It's a really
Thank
good
you.
track. Yeah, and like I get like a very also like hyperpop vibe as well too, and like also dance. Like, is that like kind of the vibe that's going?
Yeah, I think it's like a mix of like kind of all things. But I usually say I'm like kind of like a mix between pop and R&B, like for the most part. Yeah, it's hard to get like because I just kind of do whatever I feel in the moment.
When it comes to visuals for your music, how do you approach that?
So usually I'll like have a song that I made and I will just start listening to it over and over, and I'll close my eyes and kind of just imagine like, what kind of video would go with this? I like the song to tell me rather than like me tell the song.
And do you want to tell a story through your music?
Definitely. I think the whole reason I started like Slick Mick itself is because like I just want to tell people like you can do anything. It's really manifestation music. I don't actually have like a pink Porsche like in 90s Madonna or all of these things, but I believe that I will. And it's just kind of just embodying like what you want to be. So I like that.
And also, like, what's the meaning behind your stage name?
Slick Mick. Well, so my friends always have called me Mick. I've gone by Rat Mick before. Like I used to be on Twitter for a really long time. And then Slick Mick, I like Slick Rick, the 90s rapper, and I was like, I'm Slick Mick. So yeah.
Ooh, I guess we can talk about, of course, like your music. What was the process behind your latest single, Do It All?
So yeah, I was in the studio with my producer Owls. I've been working with him for like a really long time. He's incredible. And I was in the studio that day and I was so mad. I was like I was literally like going through a breakup like actively like in the studio like texting this guy like whatever. And Owls was playing me beats and we usually do like kind of like cute like woohoo, but this beat I heard the like and I was like, you know what, no, I need to flex like so. I came in the studio kind of mad and it came out cute still, but.
And, ooh, what was the process behind your first single? I'm sorry, first album, Slick?
Yeah, so I made that project. It was really fun. So I had just modeled for Fenty Beauty and I took every dime. Thank you. I took every dime that I made from that and I flew to Los Angeles and I met my ex-girlfriend Kim Huda, and she's like an amazing DJ and A&R. And at the time, like the only songs, like pop song that I had was Blowing Up. And I made that like in 2018 with my friend Nick Thoughtwire. And so yeah, I showed Kim this song and she was like, this is amazing. And she started like playing it, like DJing it at clubs and then like showing it to all these different producers. So they all kind of built that project kind of around that song and that feeling. So that was the process. And yeah.
Also, I don't know if this is off topic, but I'm sorry. Because, like, when you mentioned, of course, like your name, your stage name, like, I just noticed that, like, this might sound stupid, but it's like your name spelled with like two C's at the end. So it was like, I think when I was bringing up your, of course, like your first album was like, I was about to say like slick with double C's, two C's.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah.
Um, I guess also, do you have maybe like a album or maybe a single or EP in progress? If you wanna, whatever you're open telling.
Yeah, I do. I actually have a whole EP that's gonna come out this year. It's called Bakery. I think they're just like it's just kind of a collection of like really sweet songs. And it's a little more slow. Like, I mean, I do have some like, I'm always gonna have that, but I have two more like more slow singy songs on there that I'm excited about. And I have a lot of songs that I'm going to be dropping like this summer, probably at least once a month. So keep an eye out.
Have you done any like live performances? Or if you have done any live performances, you wanna give a shout out to any of them?
Yeah, so I've done a bunch of live performances. I've done some in LA. My most recent one I just did in Tokyo, which was such an amazing feeling for me. And everyone was so nice, so like so polite. So shout out to Japan. And yeah, I guess my friend Sterling's Cupid, who's also an amazing, amazing artist, he throws really good shows in New York. So those have been, I think, my favorite performances I've done. Yeah.
And are you planning on doing any collaborations with other artists, or have you done any collaborations?
Yeah, so as far as collaborations right now, I've been really trying to stick with the people that have been around me for a while. So I have a couple of really cool underground artists in mind that like kind of have just been like matching my vibe for a while. So yeah. Yeah.
Define yourself as an artist in one word and explain why.
I think I would define myself as an alchemist for sure. Because I feel like, you know, I've been through so, of course, everyone has been through so many things in their life, but it really just depends on what you do with it. And I feel like I can take a sad experience or like a breakup or just pain and turn it into something like still cute and boppy or still dancey. And so music for me has been the biggest transmutation tool that I've had. So yeah, I think I'd go with alchemist.
That's a really good answer.
Thank you.
And of course, if you're comfortable with talking about this, I also wanted to bring up how you posted a TikTok actually about, explaining how, being a black woman in the music industry can be very challenging. And there's a lot of things, especially when opportunities being presented, that like sometimes it doesn't always go through, sometimes it's just. So I wanted to ask, of course, like, when making that TikTok, like, did you expect the overwhelming but also support like you were getting like from a lot of people, especially other artists too as well?
Never. So I never expected that to be like kind of like ever reach the level that it would at all. And it was really interesting because like I think I mentioned earlier, like I've been online for a really long time. I've been on Twitter forever and just like complaining on Twitter, like, blah 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 blah. I'm emotional. So when I posted that, like I just felt like I was just posting more. I'm just used to using the internet as like a diary, basically. But it was such a different experience on TikTok, and there really has been such a huge outpouring of love. Um, but there's also been a lot on the other hand where people who are like, what does this have to do with race, And I think just being in the industry or any industry in general, like modeling anything, there's always going to be these opportunities or really cool things that kind of fall through because of the nature of the industry. But I really feel like I wanted to emphasize like the treatment after the treatment. And I really do feel like, I don't see my peers getting that same treatment, even if they didn't have, or it just wasn't going to work out for me. There's a difference between like doing things in an apologetic way and doing things in a like, well, way. So yeah, I'm really, really, really grateful for all of the support, incredibly grateful, and trying to ignore everything else that's going on. But yeah.
No, but it's like so well deserved, and I'm so happy, of course, like you said, like the internet is your diary, and to see those responses, I know it was like just very like heartwarming for you. And I just also wanted to add in, like, like especially with the industry, it's just like, but it's just like we have such a long way to go, like especially like with women of color, like in the industry, like we're making so many like efforts, so many breaking down so many barriers, but then still it's just like the higher ups and like other people, I don't know, but I feel like the industry has a lot of work to do.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And, a lot of points that people were trying to make were like, how can that be when you see like so many people of color in the industry? But that doesn't mean that they don't get treated like that. It just means that they're not as vocal about it, or maybe, or they are vocal about it, and people just kind of swish past it very quickly, it's really, there is a really, really long way to go, and just treating people with kindness in general. So yeah.
And of course, I know you mentioned how you've been, making music for a very long time. But I also wanted to ask, like, especially with your music journey, like, are you, I guess, like, self-taught in anything? Maybe like, or have you maybe taken like maybe classes on music production, or maybe like songwriting, singing?
I never took any classes, so I don't produce anything myself. My brain does not work that way as much as I wish that it did. And so I have had try like have my friends like try to teach me stuff, but it just like doesn't really work. But I am self-taught in my writing. I am in my melody making. Like all of that just came very naturally to me. But the ways that I've advanced have been like just through practicing. Like, I don't know if you've seen any of my other TikToks, but I started like just freestyling and just like saying whatever off, like literally off of the top of my head, just so I can get quicker. Because when I first started, my first session ever was probably like 3 or 4 hours. And I was like on one song. And now I'm like at a place where I can get like one song in like maybe 1.5 hours. And I just want to keep getting better. So I think I've learned so much from the people I've worked with, like, hey, you could do this better. Hey, but like I did take vocal lessons when I was a kid, but I'd say my voice is like 10 octave deeper than like now. So like, yeah, yeah.
Is there, I guess, maybe a type of impact you want to leave when it comes to your music?
Yeah, I really want people to feel color and like just brightness again. I think there's so much of it in the world, but like just to be able to show people like so much of this is inside of you, if that makes sense. Like I was saying earlier, like Sliccmic is a manifestation. This is something that I wrote down and created this like 7 years ago. This is what I want to do because I was making such sad music, and I want to bring joy into the world, color, like dancing. I want to go to parties where people are dancing again. So yeah. Yeah.
How did you become, I guess, familiar with like, pop and like R&B, and, describe also the music scene from where you're from?
For sure. So I think with pop itself, I always was really into, I just always liked like pop music. Like even when I was in middle school, like the experimental aspect I think comes from like my scene and emo phase, where I was listening to things like Broken Side, or like MySpace era music, like circle circle dot dot, like that kind of like just scene kid music. So I liked that kind of pop. But then I also liked like I grew up with like Erykah Badu, Outcast, like Missy Elliott, that sort of futuristic Aaliyah for sure, that futuristic sound. So, and a lot of Motown because I hung around with my grandparents a lot when I was a kid. So, I would say those are all how I became super familiar with pop itself. And then the music scene where I'm from. So I'm from the suburbs of Hartford, Connecticut, like very very no, like our scene is that you can drive 2 hours to New York and see something. Like, so basically, I really didn't like really grow up around too much of a music scene. But a lot of major artists would come here for concerts. Like I saw Justin Bieber and stuff and One Direction and everything. So yeah, that's kind of how I became into pop, I think.
What type of mindset do you get into when creating music? Like, what's that, I guess, what makes you, I guess, lock in or kind of like what is just the process?
Yeah, so I think for me, the process in general is kind of just like it's just to play. It's just to like have fun, play whatever feeling or emotion that I'm having during that time period is what I need to express. So like usually if it's like a slower or sadder song, I can almost guarantee it's like in the winter. If it's like a happy like like type of thing, I'm making that when it's like warm and I'm yeah, like so the process is really it starts with just keeping in touch with my feelings, journaling all the time, and I'll bring my journal to the studio and be like, oh, this is what I've been up to. Okay, what can I make out of that?
I guess, is there anything else you'd like to add for the interview?
um I think I would like to just add that I feel like a lot of times as artists, we can kind of rush through things and kind of want, or even just in life in general, oh, I can't wait until I get this and that and do this, But so much of life is a lot easier when you kind of just see things as a training period. And whatever you're doing now, even if, whether you have an audience or not, it doesn't matter. Just focus on making the best thing that you can make and feeling good in what you're creating, getting it out there, and the rest will follow. For artists that are going in this direction, like, I would even say too, like, make sure that you are happy with what you are making and like just don't make it for anyone else. Like I had this one experience when I lived in LA where I showed my song Blown Up to like this room full of guys, right? And there was like one really major big producer in there that I like kind of wanted to work with, and they all went around the room afterward because everyone was sharing their music. And when the boys were going, they're like, yeah, that's tough. Like, yeah, like I fuck with that, like bunch of whatever. And then when it was my turn and I played like it's going up, like woo, they're like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really fuck with that, And then one guy was like, yeah, but this is what the future is gonna sound like. This was like maybe 5 years ago. This is what the future is gonna sound like, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. And I was like, you know what? I cried so hard after. Of course, I'm always crying, but then I was like, it doesn't matter because this song was for me. So knowing who your audience is really important, but knowing your audience is ultimately you is really important too.
And I guess that's all. Like, I love all of your answers, and I just see like your energy definitely matches up with your music. Like, I just also wanted to add that too. But just say thank you so much again for letting me interview you.
Thank you so much for interviewing me. You're so sweet, and this was an awesome experience.
Of course. Yeah, no, thank you so much again.
Thank you. I hope you have an awesome day.
Thank you. Yes, and good luck to you with everything. Everything you deserve, especially good things, comes your way. For real, for real.
Thank you, and right back at you, genuinely.
Thank you.